how can I learn about the computers? Now I want to know everything about coding. The industry is changing so much, especially with AI, that computer science is fascinating.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to another episode of Secrets of Silent Success. Today we have the one and only Josh Berry. How you doing this afternoon, brother?
Man, I'm feeling blessed, bro. Just been a packed morning. Just left the summit, did a little speaking, talking about entrepreneurship to high schoolers, and made my way here, and I'm glad, bro. Let's
do it, bro. Let's do it. We'll jump right into it, man. So we're here to talk about tech. We're here to talk about financial literacy, and we're here to talk about the Black community. For me, I believe that the wealth gap that exists in our country when it comes to Black and brown people, some key factors in that is financial literacy and tech. I want to hear your thoughts on how we can close that wealth gap in regards to tech and financial literacy.
Absolutely. The wealth gap is real, and honestly, it's systematic. You go and look at what is the highest performing industry year over year for the last 10 years. And of course, in the top 3 in all of those metrics, you're going to look at technology sector. IT, but largely, consumer electronics, the Apples, the big boys, right? Here's the thing. We make up not even 10% of those dollars earned at the executive level, an abysmal number. It's less than 1%. So the wealth gap, it exists. And it still exists, but from an equity standpoint, the only way that we change that is by getting involved, right, and understanding the leverage that we have with the creativity that is within us to go and equip ourselves with the knowledge to go and take it.
Yeah. No, you talk about these high-performing industries. You talk about tech. I'm sure probably healthcare is up there, right?
It is.
It's all of these STEM-related fields which our community just don't dive into. But I want to hear about your journey, right? So, kid from Detroit, you got interested in computers and tech. What was your journey to where you are today?
Yeah, so I go back to when I was like 10, 11 years old, and honestly, it's so funny. It started off really with me wanting to get a smartphone. Yeah. And at the time, it was, Steve Jobs had just came out and changed the world. Today it's easy to say, wow, that was so monumental. I watched it and I saw it online. I was streaming on our family computer when you used to just have one computer that everybody shared. And I just was amazed, and I thought, this is crazy. I want one of these bad. Today, 5, 6-year-olds have phones, which blows my mind. But at the time, I was like, Mom, Dad, what's up? Being in Detroit, ain't no kid. Not even adults have for real smartphones. So it was just not. It was a no-go. But because of that, I was forced to. Okay, well, if I can't have it, I want to know everything I can know about it. That became. Actually, I'm really interested in this. How can I learn about the computers? How can I learn about every computer, not just Apple computers? Then, okay, wait, the interfaces that you leverage these devices through is applications. I want to know everything I can about applications. That, of course, became this journey of now I want to know everything about coding. And so, just this at the same time, my interest increasing this, my knowledge did too. So I just kept. Today I'm deeply enamored by technology, and the industry is changing so much, especially with AI. That for me, I'm like an enthusiast of this stuff. So I love learning about it. I went to school for it and everything. Like computer science is fascinating. And since a kid, it started off with just this interest of like, oh, I want to have this thing. Now I have like every Apple device in the world, but at the time, it just boiled down to, how can I, learn about it? And that's been a journey of, it's been a crazy journey because I felt like an anomaly then, and through my journey to today, feeling like an anomaly in high school, AP computer science, feeling like an anomaly when I made it to college, in computer science. I'm one of not a lot of people that look like me. Actually, in high school, there was maybe 5, Black individuals throughout the entire program across 4 years. Because I started freshman year through senior year in the AP, pre-AP, and then the last 3 years, AP computer. So it was just crazy. My best friend, Zechariah, that's my dog, and he was the only one that I was locked in with in that whole program. Yeah. And that just showed me something got to give. So the journey continued from there, which was this, okay, this is crazy. Why don't we exist in this? And started to think about that a little deeper. What's the remedy for it? Well, we need examples. we don't have examples. I ponder, everybody that's listening to this podcast to think of, all of the technology that you use. Think of the big technology companies, technology runs the world, and think about how many black individuals are at that CEO level or at any of the C-suite level. You'd be hard pressed, and I'd be shocked if, if anybody could come up with one on the fly. You'd have to really think about it. Because I have had a lot of people ponder that question for the last few years, I could name a few, on the spot, but at the same time, that is, when you start to ponder it, it's crazy. So I knew that I needed to take my hand, and COVID presented the opportunity where it was like, this is a time I'm stepping away from college and I'm focused on this problem, because this is the biggest problem in my life that's always stood out. And it was like, I don't know who's going to tackle it, so I'm going to take my hand at it. That journey, that was 4.5 years ago, the journey started of being, this nonprofit entrepreneur. A year later, of course, starting a software company. Those two journeys intersect in a lot of ways, but also veer, and have presented a lot of different opportunities in this life. But I can gladly say that taking that risk, deciding to go start a nonprofit about, what does it look like to showcase to these students that they can exist in this, and that we can offer real skill sets and pathways for opportunity in this life, in these careers, in this sector. It's been just so rewarding immediately, but also, and all the words that come along with that gratification, all of these things, like, it's amazing. But when you look at the pure impact, 7,500 kids across 4 years, we're in multiple major cities, you just start to say, okay, wait, we've had a good start. Now what does it look like to, over the next 50 years, execute? Scale that execution, and the next million millionaires that look like us, hopefully they're, many of them can say Briidge the Gap.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And so with the program Briidge the Gap, I think that's the first time you plugged the actual name of the program. But Briidge the Gap, you're out there teaching these STEM principles, teaching these tech principles, right? From a nonprofit level, you're talking about 7,500 kids over the 4 years. Are there any stories, any anecdotes of students who have experienced this program that maybe have had their mind shift from what I call stage and stadium dreams? Hey, I want to hoop, I want to rap, I want to do it. There's nothing wrong with that stuff, but like, hey, how can we change a mind or show them that it's possible to get those same type of adulation accolades, but in tech? I
have an amazing, a story that I love sharing, because it really is a testimony that demonstrates exactly why we got involved with this in the first place. But our for-profit company, Fuel the Future, we hosted a STEM camp. It was a 5-day camp that we hosted in collaboration with a church. They housed us and donated their space, and it was all together a community, coming together. It takes a village kind of thing. That it was incredible. This was the very first year. We've now done 3 back-to-back years, consecutive years of doing it, but this was the first one, and it was like the test case. Of course, it worked out because we've had another 2. But Savara, she was 17 years old at the time, and she comes in as just a volunteer mentor, right? She didn't necessarily need the credit hours, but she was a high schooler and entering her last year, and was just curious about what it looked like to, dig in as a volunteer and, steward some of these students into these journeys. Thing is, she's the one, she walked away with some really tangible takeaways, and I hadn't even realized it during the week of, because, I was putting together the camp, and managing volunteers, feeding 75 kids and all this stuff. It was a lot. But a year later, it was like something close to a year later, like 9 months, I was at my younger siblings' seniors homecoming like football game or something like that, and Savara is actually there, and she comes up to me, and she shares with me, Mr. Josh, I have something I want to tell you. And I was like, for sure, what's up, Savara? She goes, Mr. Josh, because of coming to Camp Future and immersing over them 5 days, and you revealed to me that, in the engineering field, we don't really exist, and especially at the Black women field. And, I wanted to, that inspired me to actually want to make a change in that. So, she wanted to share with me, and I was so proud to hear that she actually got a significant scholarship actually for Texas Women's University, and she's, pursuing the engineering path. And I think now she's like, probably got about a year left, and is going to go and be the change that we sought to see. And that's what I was articulating to them, that, hey, like, this is a real problem. And she heard that, and it was inspired enough to do something about it, right? But I also have a different story with a young man named Javis. This would have been early on. I mean, at the beginning of this 4.5 year journey, this was probably the first, I actually think this one might have been the first coding carnival. That was like our claim to fame. Those were the flagship event, teaching students about just really, programming. Nowadays it's become financial literacy, entrepreneurship, many other components, money matters, all these different things. But Javis said at our first coding carnival, it was funny, Mr. Josh, like, thank you so much for coming and putting this experience on. And, we appreciate you. But, I play basketball. I listen to NBA Youngboy, rap music. I don't know if this coding thing is for me. And I said, Javis, I play basketball. Yeah. I listen to rap music. Let me show you why I do this coding thing. 2 hours had passed, 2.5, because it was a 3-hour event. 2 hours, a little over 2 hours and some change takes place, transpires, and James had done 70 lines of code. And as we're leaving, as we're wrapping up, surely enough, he comes up to me, Mr. Josh, when can we do this again? Can you come back on Wednesday? That was huge to me. I mean, really a life-changing moment where it was like, okay, let's go replicate Javis's story. A year later, we get the Savara story. Now it's, going on 5 years, and, we have replicated both of those stories many times over. And I love to bring those up just because near and dear to my heart, we've been able to build those relationships with a lot of students and steward real pathways for these students on, a sector that, too often, up to this point, we just haven't existed in. So real change is taking place. It's going to be a long journey, but we're excited for the long haul.
Yeah, I love it. I want to switch gears slightly, right? So we talked about the impact that you all are doing on the students and in the community. I want to talk about how you guys have scaled this impact, right? Yeah. You went to multiple cities across the country. I think you guys are heading to Florida in 2025. You got some big plans there. So from a business standpoint, how have you guys been able to scale the impact?
Yeah, here's the thing. When you really look at what the actual program provides, it's something that it's not really hard to get behind. And so that's been one of those things where a lot of relationship building, it boils down to just being intentional in what our efforts are. And that's, being role models, being examples, and, really stewarding, I believe in stewardship to a high degree. I mean, that's exactly, I am actually, yes, I am the CEO and the executive director of my organizations respectively, but actually I am a conduit of our mission. Our mission is our true leaders. So when we have packed up and been at conferences or had opportunities to go get the word out on what we're doing, it's really easy for people to get behind it. And so that's what's happened. That's why in the time that, is most of these organizations have been able, to grow, it's actually just boiled down to people hearing our message, people getting behind our message, and people championing our message. So, we have an entire team base out in Detroit. We have a team base out in Chicago. We have amazing representatives out of Baltimore that have traveled, and it was literally one of those things where have you heard of Briidge the Gap? And then I'm on a phone call like, hey, I'm excited to share with you. How did you hear about us? You know what I mean? So it's just been one of those things where there's not enough programming like this, so we quickly became a hot commodity.
Yeah, and with the idea that there's not a lot of programming like this, right, geared towards the Black and brown students, how do we change the tide, right? Like, I assume do more programs like this, right? But even just saying like, hey, at home, I got my nieces and nephews that I'm talking to. I'm like, hey, think about coding, think about IT, think about tech, think about STEM. How do you change the minds, or can you change the mind? What can we do tomorrow to get more people that look like us into tech?
I'll be honest with you, we have to exist. Today is again, I ponder that question, right? Go think about somebody, really. Optically speaking, we don't exist, right? So we have to go and stake our interest that, hey, this is something that we can go excel in. This is something that not only can we exist, but we can go excel. I mean, look at the industries that we have taken over. I mean, entertainment, in a big way, sports in a big way. Let's replicate that in technology, because here's the thing, this is, especially with the advent of AI, more companies are being created now more than ever. And, this is the internet boom of, of this generation. And I beg of anybody that's interested, you have an idea, just start it, right? It's I remember like everybody's like, how did you get started? I said, well, I just started. I just had to know that this thing needed to exist. So I did the steps to make it exist. We, took the steps, did the documentation, made those investments. I need for our people, and this is a call to action, right? Where we can exist, whether we've had the examples or not, we can go become the examples. And we need it now more than ever, because the next generation of, wealth, generational wealth in our communities, that money is going to be made in technology, healthcare, STEM fields, robotics, all of these different things.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell not everybody all the time, but I always mention, I feel like the revolution that we're seeing with AI specifically is kind of the industrial revolution all over again. Yeah. And unlike, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, when the industrial revolution came, I mean, we were just one generation removed from slavery. We didn't even have the resource to jump on the train. Yeah. All right, we 4 generations down the line now, 5 generations. We don't have as many resources as our said counterpart, but we do got some resources. And we also have unlimited education, right, on the internet, that we can go and jump on this bandwagon. So with AI specifically, what are you hearing from people that look like us, right? I feel like it's bifurcated. Either you're in love with AI or you're like, I never want to touch it, right? Yeah. But how do you, or what do you hear in our community about AI, and how can our community leverage it?
Yeah, that's a loaded question, but there's a lot there. But I think that immediately, like, this year, right, I've been at the Dallas Startup Weeks. I'm connected with the Dallas Entrepreneur Network, right? So the DEC Network, NTAN, National North Texas Angel Network. So there's all of these different opportunities that I've had to interact with a bunch of, early adopters of this technology, trying to build businesses with it. And I'm seeing that we are in these rooms, right? There's a lot of excitement, and it's about, realistically, the backing, right? Because here's the thing. 1% of all venture capital dollars in all of 2023 went to blacks. And I'm talking about blacks, males and females, right? So it's like, whoa. I mean, and actually at the black females, significantly, it's less than 0.5%. It's insane. So it's about being the loudest people in the room with our intelligence and our creativity and our staked ownership that, hey, y'all gonna have to back me. Yeah. Because last year, you look at the data, it's been bad. So we have to go actually create these opportunities ourselves. But I see that there is the excitement, the energy is there, and it's about, almost supporting ourselves, right? Let's almost that crowdsource. Like think of creative solutions around what does it look like to go and put this out and go be in front of the right community that's going to uplift this. And that's what's necessary right now. The same way that, between the nonprofit and the for-profit, we've been able to garner a kind of support that, allow for the bigger parties, the corporate level organizations to reach out and say, hey, we want to get behind your impact. We need that to happen, 100 times over for the next really awesome ideas that are leveraging AI. Immediately, how can we leverage AI? As a thought partner, right? I feel confident our people, like we're really quick on our feet, really agile. These are amazing components, right? And so having somebody that you can bounce, like literally like 120 IQ, just somebody that you can, like seriously, you can bounce your ideas off, like a thought partner in a real way. Now, like for example, like if I'm getting prepped to go pitch this thing to a team of investors now, hey, GPT or Claude or, Meta AI, craft, 5 potential questions, being harsh on the criteria, like based on my pitch deck. That level of, anticipation of how to gauge, like people really want to see, do you know what you're talking about? If you know your ish, then go sell it and go speak confidently and go rock the room, right? And that's how you not only go get support from our people, but that's how you go get support from everybody, right? To showcase that you know it, right? AI is an amazing, amazing, amazing thought partner and an amazing tutor. Let's take all the knowledge that we can and leverage it. Again, leverage is huge. Right now, it's another call to action. Let's leverage AI because this is the new industrial revolution. If we don't leverage it, we will continue to be left behind. We will continue to be 1% of venture capital dollars.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I'm pretty sure you've heard of Benjamin Van. If you haven't, he said
that's my guy.
Yeah, he said the exact same thing. 1% of the venture capital dollars and 1% of the people making the decisions to deploy that capital look like you too, right? The 1% and the 1%. So it's just not a lot out there. Forecasting 10 years out, right? It's specifically talking about Briidge the Gap. What's the hopes? What's the plans? What are you guys looking to achieve? And, the students to come back and say, hey, I saw it, so I did it. Like, what do you guys forecast for the next decade?
It just boils down to between, really, I do spend quite a lot of my time at the software company, right? And so that's, really what it looks like. Both of those, the missions are deeply aligned. But I think, what we found out with Briidge the Gap was that we could distribute learning in a real way. This, STEM, like these kids, they want to do STEM. We have the data on it. We actually have a bit more girls in our program than young boys at that. So basically from 6 to 12, we have significantly more girls, right, that are interested in this, which I find to be so interesting because, I read a statistic 4 years ago that really tightened how we were going to go about putting this program out. And it was something like, if you don't reach a young girl by the time that she turns 12 years old in science, technology, engineering, or math, she'll never be interested. I mean, really, let's look at the equity of who's getting jobs in these and who's playing these, executive roles in these environments. Is overwhelmingly male and it's overwhelmingly not BIPOC. So, that definitely steered a lot of things. So again, the learnings that we've had, and it's all been a blessing to just be able to be in the position that I do, get in and look at all this data and see that change is taking place right now. The next 10 years from now, I want to distribute learning in a way that's holistic, but also scalable. And of course, I love the in-person experience. I love the camps, but our software, that's how we distribute our learnings and our curriculum to 1 million people. It doesn't, the in-person, it is like now don't get me wrong, I love the ground game, right? The ground game is great and it's direct and it's like, it's direct, touch, tactile, it's very tactile, but the way that we distribute these learnings, it is gonna have to be software. And that was, I feel like I've been preparing this for my entire life, to go and put, our assistive LMS, which is the way that, there's our assistive LMS, which we're distributing to, essentially content partners that want to bring their curriculum and house it in our AI native learning management software, and like they absolutely can leverage it. And then our FTF Learn, which is a free computer science platform to teach the next generation of computer scientists, or just people interested in learning logic, learning computational thinking, learning beginner programming, and taking it from there. That program is free and it's actually funded entirely by the proceeds that we are able to produce from assistive LMS on an enterprise level.
Yeah. Totally not in the show notes, but it was interesting that as a tech person who has a boots on the ground nonprofit, you talk about using tech to scale it, right?
Have to.
And so even for me, been in business now almost 10 years, it wasn't until like the last 12 to 18 months that I'm like, if you want to not just make more money, but make more impact, right? If you want to scale, you have to, I guess you don't have to, but you have to incorporate software, incorporate technology. So for people like myself, right, service-based entrepreneurs, right, service-based nonprofits, very maybe geo-specific entrepreneurs, people who are probably like your clients, right? These nonprofit, these religious institutions, what do you tell them about you should probably get some software into your business, into your organization to make more impact and to scale? What do you tell them?
I think, and this is, the proof is in the pudding kind of thing where, software is deep, like if it's leveraged correctly, again, let's like that word leverage, right? If it's leveraged correctly, it's an absolute game changer. You might be looking at 3 times efficiency, optimizations on entire workflows, SOPs, right? So overwhelmingly, I think it's an easy sell from, people want to see, do I know what I'm talking about? And when I can go provide raw data in front of them and say, hey, this absolutely is a boost, from a productivity standpoint, from a revenue output. Essentially, I think you look at any for-profit company, and EBITDA is deeply important for them. A company that is not leveraging technology today, which I hope is not too many, but if they're really not leveraging, now a lot aren't leveraging AI, but over the next 5-10 years, that's gonna change drastically. But today, if you're not leveraging software in some form to conduct your operations, you are leaving money on the table. You are absolutely, missing optimization opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to go too much on a tangent, but I read a stat one time that was like most people with their iPhones use about 15% of its capabilities, right?
Yeah.
I believe, I'm speaking just for me, I can't speak for all the
All
business owners.
right.
I got software in my business. I have hardware, I have software, I have tech in my business, but probably only using about 10 to 15%, right? Whether it's our CRM, whether it's our project management software, whether it's developing our own app, I really do feel like, I'm speaking for me, entrepreneurs, you get in there, you get enough tech to work, right? But you're not using the adaptive cruise control on your car like you should be, right? That's how it is
Thanks.
when it comes to technology. And I think,
See, that's exactly like, so here's the thing. We got all these kids, around the country, around the world actually, they spend that 15%, what they are going to spend that 15% on is TikTok and Instagram, right? Where they're following these real, you look at the time spent, the devices will tell you how much time you're spending. And, you look at 7 hours on TikTok in a week and it's like, well, here's the thing, today, we have an opportunity to look at ourselves and say, a shift has to happen, right? What if we can now leverage that 7 hours? Instead of TikTok, you are using engaging curriculum, right? Engaging education products. And that's what, we want to do with FTF Learning and with Assistive, because we can actually personalize the entire education journey, make it very enticing, almost like, leveraging, each individual profile that is ever created. We know how you learn. We know what excites you. And now we're a lot like the same way that TikTok and Instagram, they're using their advanced algorithms that are absolutely leveraging, a lot of AI technology, not necessarily LLMs, but, we're talking machine learning and things like that. Yeah. That is entirely based on your personal, it's like playing into your strengths and your weaknesses and saying, I'm going to stick you on this platform for the next hour and you can't do anything about it. And we're going to make all this money on ad revenue, right? So you're so right, the 15%, but now how is that? The 15% capabilities, but now 85% of my free time is going towards, leisure when, not to go on too much of a tangent, but man, you just brought up a good point where it's like, that is just shining more light on why it's so important that this mission that we're on is to, showcase that, hey, you all have a lot of technology at your disposal. What if we could show you how to use it productively? Yeah. What if I could teach a young student that has a Chromebook but doesn't really know what to do with it? Hey, what if I showed you trading? What if I showed you, how to leverage this device to, go be a digital, like you have a phone and you have a phone with a nice camera, 4K camera. Yeah. If you have the newest iPhone or newest Android, and you have a laptop. Let's talk about like a digital marketing workshop where now we can show students how to go leverage that time. Where I'm like, literally, I think that in a big way, social media has been problematic, right? And so, it's there. YouTube is like honestly one of those sweet spots of like, it is definitely like social product, but it's deeply advantageous on a, if you want to learn anything, if you want to learn anything. So there's a lot of respect to YouTube, but I think that, you go and find that model of like, okay, how do I offer the kind of productivity gain, the kind of utility that YouTube does from a learning perspective, and also understanding that what the social platforms have been able to do, leveraging people's interest. Let's replace the whole, leisure, entertainment, memes, all that stuff. Let's move all of that into, hey, productivity, because learning can be fun. Edutainment, seriously, that's a real thing. And I deeply respect anybody that's right now as a young entrepreneur or just as a student, right? That if you are excited about this AI thing, and you want to figure out a way to, take all of the information that you're feeding it and to take learnings from it, right? People are fine tuning their own learning programs, their own, skill sets. It's like, a personal professor. That's dope, right? So now what if we equip every student in America with it? That consumes a lot of my brain power now.
Yeah. No, man, that was amazing. Totally not on the show notes, but very, very good content. I do, before we wrap up here, I opened up, closing that wealth gap. And we talked about it from a tech perspective and we talked about it from a financial literacy perspective, right? For the last 30 minutes, we've been talking about tech. I want to end on the financial literacy note. It was interesting you brought up, the use cases for social media. So for me personally, in like the last week or two, I've deleted all the social media apps except for YouTube and LinkedIn off my phone, because I'm like, man, I've been financially intentional adjacent, right? I haven't been fully intentional. I've been intentional adjacent. I'm not going out there making any bad decisions, but I'm not strategically trying to make wealth generating decisions. So I'm like, okay, cool. So anytime I want to have that, knee-jerk reaction to open up Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or whatever, hey, go open up Robinhood, go open up Fidelity, go open up TradingView and look at some stocks, right? Edify yourself over finances. So that's been one of my tips for myself in terms of financial literacy and using tech. I want to ask you, right, for the Black and brown community who we know have had our trials and tribulations when it comes to finances, what are some of your tips to have good financial literacy, wellness, put asterisks, using tech?
Organization, right? I mean, immediately my thought is like, from an organization standpoint, I mean, we have the dashboards, people, and I guess this is kind of maybe a poor example, but like a dating app or like, your social apps, like you managing those notifications in a big way, like you very timely responses, right? So it's like, setting up, being intentional to like go and set up, your banking profiles, or, nowadays there's a lot of opportunity on these existing platforms where, hey, like, let's build a personalized journey. Like, honestly, the same time that everything, like the whole AIification of everything, customization and personalization, this is the era of that right now. All the big platforms and the smaller platforms are learning that people want personalized platforms. Now, AI is allowing that in a deeper way, more so than ever, and is, from a capability standpoint, very strong. But, from an organization standpoint, because software is algorithm-based and it can learn you, go feed it to some algorithms that knows how you're gonna spend money better than you do, and it's gonna humble you, right? And it's almost like you can
Starbucks again, bro.
You wake up and you got a notification. It's like, not today, not today. You can't do it today. But so I think that from an organization standpoint, it's like financial literacy 101, right? Budgeting, saving, just from a management perspective, leverage the real existing technology stack today that allows you to personalize and look at raw data and read things. I mean, okay, I'm spending more money than I'm making. My software, common sense would tell you that that's a bad idea, but seriously, you feed that into a data and okay, now let's look at the next 3 months. It's not sustainable, but like 3 months out from now, what does this look like? The software is going to show you a roadmap that you probably won't like. So it's just having that level of, like you said, intention, bro, is everything. Financial literacy in our communities, it's not talked about enough. All right, I literally this morning I was at a financial literacy summit for 4 hours, and just some of those gyms, it's like a lot of them kids are telling me things like, oh, I've never heard about this. And it's, you make it to the point where you're 18 years old, getting ready to go to college, maybe going to go take on $40,000 debt. And then when you're starting from a position of debt, now financial literacy feels unattainable. It's like, or like this, this confidence and feeling of like that you have control on your finances. If you let it get away from you, debt, if credit card debt, all this stuff, it can add up. So leveraging meaningful software about, okay, tips and tricks, but also from an organization of my actual finances, modeling out, okay, what does it look like? So, it's just intention, organization, anticipation. The software will help you with that anticipation part. Financial models are a big thing. And then I think with AI, everybody with money is going to tell you that they have a financial manager of some sort, or, asset manager, things like that. Today, ChatGPT, the free version, is a pretty decent financial manager. I think everybody needs to start leveraging these AIs that are trained on 405 billion parameters of model data. So they understand finances. If you don't have financial literacy, go start talking to some AI, because it's pretty good. But those three components are huge.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. I had not thought I don't want to say each week, but at least each month, it's like That's a new way that I could leverage AI. And I had not thought about leveraging AI from a financial manager position. Because if you go to, any wealth advisor, they're like, you got, 400,000, 500,000 in net worth for assets to manage. If you don't, they ain't trying to talk to you, right? So to be able to go to a software like ChatGPT and get some financial,
Fam, right now,
it's crazy.
Everybody gets their monthly bank statements. Go take your last year's bank statements, all 12 of those emails, download the PDFs, go upload those same 12 PDFs into ChatGPT and say, suggest tips for how to leverage my financial earnings and how do I, start making more intentional decisions. That alone is going to give you some pretty tangible outcomes, right? And so, that's the first layer of intention. But then now go show that like you've take your business plan of like this new side hustle. Okay, now what does it look like to go add the potential revenue there? And now let's model out, just kind of riffing in my head, but like there's a lot of opportunity in, leveraging today's freely available software stack to start making, the kind of intention, the way you phrase it earlier, I loved what you were saying, not necessarily.
I'm intentional adjacent.
Yeah, intentional adjacent. Man, so you can, going deeper with that.
Yeah. No, man, that's great, bro. That's great. We talked a lot about tech. We talked some about finance. So I would ask you, Josh Berry, what is your secret to success?
Being agile. I think being agile because, like if I knew what I know now, right? When I started this 5 years ago, it'd just be so different. But at the same time, like you have to be willing to devise a plan and course correct and adjust on the fly in real time, quarter to quarter. I mean, the plan could change, but like as long as you have the plan, that's a beautiful thing. If you don't got a plan, you don't got nothing, right? So have the plan, but the plan is going to change. You just have to anticipate that it will. So I phrase it, I basically bottle it down, into agility, just being agile. That's something that, because I've had a team, between the two organizations, I've had growing teams of, at the software company and on my, board. It's like, it's a revolving door sometimes, right? Some people go to other opportunities. I've literally, in the last 5 years, had, a staff between the two of like over 30 people. And like today, that number is like 15, right? But like between like the people that have there's been a few that have stayed the whole time, and there's been people that came for a year. But like those changes, I have to make adjustments when a personnel change happens. But it's like, if I'm not planning to be agile, it's gonna really hurt in a big way. So I've just been open to understanding that what I don't know, and I'm always ready to learn new things, right? So, but I also would distill that down to agility, right? So just being willing to learn, being willing to take wisdom from people older than me. I have a growth mindset, but also, the intention to be a student because I have like 15 amazing mentors, right? And mentors in different domain expertise, right? So it's like, I don't know what I don't know. And I'm blessed to have the mentors that will feed real knowledge, feed real wisdom into me. And I'm like, this is a blessing. I'll take it as that. But, the agility to now take in and actually leverage this newfound wisdom, I do, chalk that to agility. And just being able to now move forward with new lessons, move forward with new wisdom, move forward with new gems that I can actually now, in turn, feed to these kids that we're educating around 5 major cities in America, going to scale that number. It's just, because again, we're agile. So today we're at 5 major cities. This time let's check in again in a year from now, and I bet because of our agility, it'll be a lot more.
Yeah. I normally say we'll leave it right there after giving such a great answer, but it was something that you said at the beginning of the podcast that I think goes hand in hand with what you just said about agility. You said that you just start. People always be like, and it's hard to start.
Yeah.
For me, I say it's easier to start because I'm going to have to adjust on the second step anyway. And so to hear that, hey, your secret to success is agility, going with the fact that, hey, I'm willing to just get out there and start, I think they go hand in hand because it's no paralysis by analysis when you know that you're going to have to change course and learn and be agile anyway.
Absolutely, man.
Cool. We'll leave it right there, brother. I appreciate you.
Much love.
Absolutely. Yeah.